into the polytunnels.
Others would have been like 3-4 feet down, and so it would have been dead.
Yes, yes.
So right now I've got the problem of we put it in and we should have taken the time to let it settle down, but we needed to get plants out of it immediately. So some of the tomatoes are doing really well.
And are you feeding your tomatoes? Well, I mean,
I'm feeding everything.
Yeah. What are you giving your tomatoes?
I'm doing a lot of nettle teas, also doing a lot of composting teas. And this is stuff that I've cut off of sort of the big piles of topsoil.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot of nettles. They've got a lot of dandelion. They've got a lot of other things, and so they will rot down as well over the season. But I'm doing a lot of feeding.
And are you not afraid it's going to transfer weed seeds?
There's already loads of weed seeds, and I think it's more important to actually get the mulch in and to get the fertility in. And so I cut off most of the stuff. There's a couple of dandelion heads in there, but most of those dandelion heads, they were cut off the stem when they were still in flower.
Okay.
And so the seeds probably aren't viable. They're not that strong anymore. And so if you can see down here, like these are all the identical tomato plants, and some of them are doing really well, and others are really stunted. And that's just because of the difference of the topsoil that we put in.
So these are the polytunnels where they're beginning to get the organic ag side going. And as you can hear, it's quite an involved process.
Can you grab me that first tray there and pass that to me, and then we'll go down where there's a bit more space.
What's this, Amber?
That's rocket, arugula. Yeah, come on down here and I'll show you some stuff.
So I've never actually paid attention to sewing. I find it just
So,
stand back there now a little bit.
just a little about sowing, and direct seeding or not. I'd much prefer to direct seed everything, but when you're dealing in massive scales and when you don't have the space and the field wasn't even plowed, or there's a certain amount of well, it's sort of getting the advanced, getting a bit more growth when it's really wet, not having to water, which I would have if I had planted into the ground immediately, because there was no moisture for a month out in that field. But then it's also hoeing and clearing and all that kind of stuff, and so it's often, transplants are often used, and all this lettuce has been transplanted, and it's all been done on these modules. Now these are old. This is my first time growing field scale. I'm growing for a large group of people, and I didn't know how much lettuce was going to come out of the polytunnel. Like what kind of yield I'd be able to get out of it. I didn't know how much people are going to eat. I didn't know how long it was going to last, and so my strategy for that was I'll sow as much as I can. And so I sowed these, and these will never get planted. These are scrap. These are going to be composted. Oh. And one of the things, they just went to, we just don't have enough time, but then they're also starting to get really top out. Now if I took that, it's been stunted basically the same size for about 2 weeks. Right? And I just basically have abandoned them. And you can see the colors are starting to turn. They're not as green. They're not as developed. And so these trays used to be on the wood that you're standing on there. They're separated up, and so these trays are specifically designed so that the roots come out, they hit the side, they go down, and then they're called their air pruning.
Okay.
So they stick out the bottom, and they say, well, I can't go out there, and so it prunes itself off and it sends out other roots somewhere else, and that's where all these other roots are. So if the root ball is a little bit less, ideally you should be able to pull it out, and there should be just enough roots to hold all the soil together. Because if you have anything like that, that's already root bound. You stick that in the ground. It will send out more roots, but it's already been stunted. It's already been sitting there and stunted. And the thing with lettuce and most plants, you want them to grow continuously as fast as possible all the way through. And so transplanting, if you don't treat it properly and if you don't deal with it properly, it can be a real problem.